The westernmost island in the Hawaiian archipelago lies just a short 4,923 miles from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. This island is known as Niihau and has been banned from any outsiders who attempt to travel to this remote destination, making it known as the Forbidden Island. The small island has a population of just roughly 170 residents and is actually decreasing at a pretty rapid pace. The reason people may be leaving Niihau is probably due to the fact that alcohol is banned, there are no cars, no electricity, no running water, guns are banned, men aren't allowed to have long hair, and is honestly just known as one of the strictest places in the whole entire United States. What is so strange is that just 28.9 miles away is Hawaii's closest island that resembles a completely normal US town with none of the same restrictions. So you're probably wondering now, why is this island in the middle of the Pacific so different from its neighboring islands, and why don't they allow any visitors? Well, first, it helps to understand the history of how Niihau was formed. Like all of the other Hawaiian islands, Niihau was formed by a volcanic explosion where once the lava hits the water, it cools and turns into rock, which forms an island. Fast forward a couple million years, and the native Hawaiians are now living on the island in a small village called Pu'ai. This was a very small village where the natives didn't actually own any of the land, and travelers were still very much welcome. In 1864, Elizabeth Sinclair Robinson, a plantation owner in New Zealand, purchased the island of Niihau from the King of Hawaii for $10,000 in gold. This was a pretty cheap purchase even with inflation in mind, as today that would only equate to a little over $300,000. Not bad for an entire island. It wasn't until 1952 where the island would soon cut itself off from the rest of the world. In 1952, the world experienced a polio outbreak that hit the United States especially heavily. The number of US polio cases peaked at 57,000 and caused 3,145 deaths, which today would seem like nothing compared to the modern-day COVID-19 pandemic that has left nearly 1 million Americans dead. The island of Niihau took very serious precautions and banned all travel into the island. The Robinson family decided to revoke visiting rights to anyone who did not live on the island. And although the polio epidemic is long behind us, the island of Niihau is still off limits to the general public. The only way you can visit the island is through the owners of the island, which is still the Robinson family. The Robinson family still owns the entire island to this day and operates in a way that is to uphold the request of the king before the island was turned over to the Robinsons. As mentioned before, this isn't the only strange part of Hawaii's westernmost island. Niihau also still acts as an ancient civilization in that there is no running water, electricity, cars, and many other strict regulations. The remaining residents of Niihau, all roughly 170 of them, are extremely self-sufficient. They are able to grow, find, and hunt whatever they might need on a day-to-day basis. The Robinson family also continues to support the locals by facilitating trade with other Hawaiian islands. The island of Niihau is lucky to have an extremely rare shell that washes up on their beaches, known as, fittingly, the Niihau shell, which gets transformed into some beautiful leis. Another source of the locals' income comes from fishing. Residents on the island hunt and fish using age-old methods passed down from their ancestors. Unfortunately, today, the island's natural resources are in danger. Pressures from outside sources have strained the island's ability to uphold traditions and is leading to dying cultural practices. These pressures have also led to the population declining at a pretty rapid pace. There's a lot of debate about how many people actually live on Hawaii's Forbidden Island, mainly due to the fact that the Robinson family isn't required to report population numbers. Nobody knows the actual number of residents that still live in Niihau. Anytime the locals of Niihau visit nearby islands and see the drastic differences in quality of life, it is often hard to come back to your home knowing that you'll have to actually work for your next meal. The island wouldn't even have any animals to hunt, but luckily in 1999, an abundance of sheep, cattle, and pigs were brought to the island from a nearby ranch known as Molokai Ranch. Despite having to work hard for every meal, the residents try to live a relaxed, slow-paced life. The ancient king of Niihau was concerned with the future of how Niihau would have to adapt to advancements in technology, so the Robinson family took it upon themselves to ensure that Niihau does not evolve similar to the rest of the world. The Robinson family is also attempting to uphold the old Puritan ways by banning alcohol, guns, men with long hair or earrings, and every resident is required to attend church services on Sundays. Anyone caught breaking these rules could face possible eviction, where they would never be allowed to return to their homes again. Despite the extreme secrecy of the island, there are some limited tours available. These tours won't get you a front row seat into the culture, but you can explore the shores and beaches of Niihau along with other untouched areas of the island. The helicopters and boats transporting people to the island do not fly over or even near the town on the island with the locals to honor their privacy. Lastly, maybe the most interesting fact of Niihau is that following the attack on Hawaii by the Japanese soldiers at Pearl Harbor, one of the Japanese airmen crashed his plane on Niihau. The Japanese fighter pilot lived and proceeded to take the entire island hostage. Thankfully, 2 of the locals living on the island were eventually able to disarm the man and eventually kill the invader. One of these men even received a Purple Heart Award for his efforts, which is an extremely honorable award only granted by the President of the United States. If you learned something today, be sure to hit that subscribe button and I'll see you next time.